The problem with students is not that they willfully scramble together a concluding paragraph. The issue is that they have not been shown the practical way of executing one. This video will explain how a concluding paragraph should be written, and a template will be given to help you with structuring one the right way. Since the concluding paragraph sums up your paper, you must never use a reference in this segment. This is because a new reference will mean that you are introducing a new idea where it is not appropriate to do so. A great concluding paragraph does three things. A. It sums up everything you have discussed so far. B. It reveals your position on the argument based on your findings. And C. It leaves an intriguing impression at the end for the reader. Again, the external to internal principle applies here, as in this context, the paragraph goes from summarizing the events of the present to predicting the events of the future. To write a great concluding paragraph, the steps are as follows. 1. The complication line. Let's refer back to the example assignment question from episodes 2 and 3. Discuss the effects of pollution caused by industrialization in Nepal. Begin your conclusion by stating the complex nature of your findings. Very rarely will your findings be so simple that you will take a one-sided approach with ease. To show this, you can write something along the lines of, in conclusion, Nepal's situation with industrial pollution is a complicated one. Why this is complicated should be covered in the next line, which will require you to summarize your analysis. The following lines should roughly be a 1 to 3 line summary of your findings throughout your body paragraphs. Let's refer back to the example assignment question from episodes 2 and 3. Discuss the effects of pollution caused by industrialization in Nepal. If we were to assume that the example criteria within this question were completely answered, the summary of the analysis might read as follows. As small as it is, the rate of industrialization seems to have given the local people in Nepal opportunities, income and a more stable lifestyle than they have seen in many years. However, the toxins from recent industrialized pollution seems to have already created damage to the rivers. Capital cities like Dhaka in Bangladesh is one that has been seeing damage done from pollution over many years and is an example of what might happen if industrial activity is at its peak. It is completely fine to write more summary lines if necessary, as long as it serves your argument. 3. Expand or restate the thesis. If you are doing a dissertation, this segment means that you must remind the reader of the purpose of your investigation, and if you have found the answer to solving it. This is how you would expand on your argument. However, if it is a marked criteria paper, you will have to restate the thesis statement so that it sums up the analysis lines that came before it. To carry out this process effectively, take the thesis line from your introduction paragraph and reword it so it reads a little differently. For example, your original thesis statement in your introduction paragraph might read as follows. This paper will argue that if the industrial activities in Nepal continue for the long term, both rural and urban areas might face an upsurge in ailments and environmental damage. A practical way of changing the thesis line so it seems different can be to restructure the sentence around or rephrase it altogether. Consequentially, the thesis statement in your concluding paragraph might read more like this. This shows that while industrialization is a great economic benefit to local businesses in Nepal, the harm that it might cause to both natural and urban areas is a major concern for the near future. The reason we restate the thesis statement is to remind the reader of your position in the argument. If the reader sees your argument in the introduction, then sees traces of the justification for your view throughout the body segment before finally seeing the argument again in the conclusion, they will get the impression that they have read a well-organized and articulated piece of work. While your work might not be able to rival a real research paper due to the time constraint and limiting scope, it will show the marker that you have understood the concepts learnt in class and your ability to articulate an argument very well. 4. Optimistic or pessimistic view. In these lines, you predict what the implications of your findings mean for the near future. Here you give the reader an optimistic view of the future or a pessimistic one based on what you have found throughout your investigation. You must never surpass 2 lines unless if your reason is justified. For example, if you were to give an optimistic view of the example topic, it might read as follows. Regardless, the size of the industrial activity in Nepal is still small, and that seems to be the intention of the local authority. In effect, this will eliminate the threat of pollution from growing any bigger and keep it at a manageable scale. If your view is a pessimistic one, the view stage might read more like this. Since the local authorities do not seem to be receptive to the threat of pollution at its early stage, a future where Nepal has fallen to the overabundance of industrial waste seems more plausible than ever before. The following is a template of what has been covered throughout this video. The conclusion here might read like this. Complication line. In conclusion, Nepal's situation with industrial pollution is a complicated one. Summary of analysis. As small as it is, the scale of industrialization seems to have given the local people in Nepal opportunities, income and a more stable lifestyle than they have seen in many years. However, the toxins from recent industrialized pollution seems to have already created damage to the rivers. Capital cities like Dhaka in Bangladesh is one that has been seeing damage done from pollution over many years and is an example of what might happen if industrial activity is at its peak. Restate the thesis. This shows that while industrialization is a great economic benefit to the local businesses in Nepal, the harm that it might cause to both natural and urban areas is a major concern for the near future. Optimistic or pessimistic view. Since the local authorities do not seem to be receptive to the threat of pollution at its early stage, a future where Nepal has fallen to the overabundance of industrial waste seems to be more plausible than ever before. In this video, we have explored how to write a conclusion paragraph the practical way. In terms of outlining, we recommend that you write the body paragraphs, then concluding paragraphs, so you complete your investigation and identify the patterns. In the next video, we will be exploring the next step of this program, how to write the introduction paragraph. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you have learnt anything from this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.